I'm John Miglosh for the Wisconsin DMA and the International Society for Strategic Marketing. Here you are today. Glad you joined in. Oh, we've got some fun stuff today. This is going to be fun. I think it's real. I learned so much getting ready for this. People say, why do you do it when no one watches? I learn a lot. It forces me into the marketplace in a way that I've never had before. So hopefully you ride along on my grand adventure. So let's get over to the rest of the world here. And first we're going to talk about something kind of silly. We're going to talk about your your credibility bookshelf. Okay, credibility bookshelf. And what it says is that toss out your pantsuits, put aside your PhD. In quarantine, the surest way to command expertise is to plop yourself in front of a bookshelf. Did you know that? You probably did, because here you see me every day. Okay, it's a credibility bookshelf. You're better off with dull, leather-bound books than you are with flashy modern novels. No flashy modern novels, no bright colors. Just dull, leather-bound volumes that scream, I went to grad school. Yeah. So, a credibility bookshelf is like the gang boss with two big guys next to him. Okay? There's a micro industry devoted to sleuthing out books that people have on their shelves. Okay? And bosses unconsciously judge your work ethic by the clarity of your webcam and the lighting in your room. See the lighting? Right? Now, let's get over to I'm going to give you a little tour of my bookshelf, which I can do a little bit. Okay, so that's the WDMA. That's just my sign. Above there is Dilbert, Dogbert, and his boss, right? There's also two plaques over here. Two plaques where I was president of the Wisconsin DMA years ago, and I was also the treasurer of the secretary, I think. And there's a bunch of other commemorative stuff. There's my grad school diploma right behind that, my master's degree. If we go over this way, I've got my family, my wife, my kids, my wedding picture of my wife, what a beautiful picture, and my patent, one of them, my first one. And down on the next shelf, I have my own book. I don't know if you can see that. It's a little dark. I've got the Who's Who thing. I've got some thank yous from speaking events around the world. I've got a whole shelf of direct marketing books, okay, and some of which I helped write, and one of which I wrote entirely. And I also have Accidental Empires. And if you haven't ever read that, and you're in MarTech, you should, because it talks about, when I got started in consulting, Osborne Computer was just coming on, and there were all kinds of other competitors, and then the IBM PC came out, and it just knocked everybody out. But that process of Bill Gates and all the different competitors sorting itself out is fantastic. And this is a historical journalist. And the Dilbert, yeah, Scott Adams and I write back and forth daily, a couple times yesterday, maybe four or five. And I don't know, I just send him odd stuff, and he writes back, and then sometimes he uses it on his show, but it's fun to be able to influence influencers. Okay, so you got to have a good bookshelf, and I upped the lighting just a little so that you could see a bit of it right now. So we'll go on from there. Get your bookshelf together. I just don't see anybody making any kind of effort at the background. Bernie Sanders did a video interview, and the shelves were all bare behind him because of the panic. And what does that say? This is the closest to socialism we've ever had in the United States, and the shelves did get bare. We're going to talk about the supply chain in a minute. Okay, now we're going to go over to virtual events. Virtual events could make game streamers the richest entertainers on the planet. This was an unbelievably interesting article, believe it or not. Okay? And most of you probably don't even know much about virtual events. So I brought up a couple. This was a virtual event that I enjoyed immensely at the Super Bowl. And this was Brett Favre
You know, I catch hell because I wore jorts. Jorts were cool then.
That's right.
Joe Montana.
That was Baker.
And a mullet was real cool.
I think it's still cool.
They're still cool.
Maybe not that one.
These guys are
That cordless phone.
Joe Montana and Drew
pull-out
Brees.
antenna.
Heck yeah, that's great.
Yeah. I've told this story a bunch, but this kind of told me where I stood in Atlanta's organization. So I get drafted by Atlanta, 33rd, 32nd pick, whatever it was, and I fly out the next day. That's back when you got drafted. You had to go to minicamp right away. You know, they'd have like a 2.5-day minicamp. So I get there. The guy picks me up at the airport, and we have about an hour drive up to Sewanee. And we get there, and I'm a little late because there's only 2 flights out of Gulfport, Mississippi that go into Atlanta, and it was delayed. So Jerry Glanville's standing out there, and he's got his back to me. And the guy that picked me up at the airport is a guy named Danny Mock. Danny says, Coach, I got your quarterback. You know, I'm thinking, this is Jerry Glanville. He had a black windbreaker on. He had a cowboy hat. He had coach's shorts on with socks pulled up. Typical. Had a horn in his back pocket. I remember it vividly. I'm a brown nosing. Hey. Danny says, hey, Coach, here, got your quarterback. He turns around and looks, got his dark shades on. And he says, Mississippi? Yes, sir, Coach. He said, what school are you from? I said, I'm from Southern Miss. He said, dang, we drafted the wrong guy. We wanted a guy from Mississippi State. I went up. This is not going very well. And it didn't go very well. But it got me out of there. You know, I was there, you know,
That was crazy.
one season. And
when he was there.
oh, he was crazy.
Oh, yeah.
The only thing I was good for is we went into a stadium, and he would say, all right, everybody gather around Mississippi. I got $100, says you can throw it in the third deck. He can't throw it in the third deck. I throw it in the third deck and win guys money. Yeah, I told y'all he throw it in the third deck. And I can throw it.
That's hilarious. That's hilarious.
That's what I was good for.
Drew, what about you?
That's what I was
when you
good
were getting
for.
drafted?
Well, I wasn't throwing it in the third deck. I know that. No,
Anyway, what this was about was I ran across this during the Super Bowl, and it was so much better than the game, you know, because Super Bowls are usually pretty dull, a lot of commercials. And so I'm watching these guys talking about old stories, and Joe Montana told some, but Brett Favre's my favorite. I can't help it. And it just was just good old boys. This stuff is better than sports. Why do they always have these dopey commentators? But this isn't what I'm really talking about. Although I think we could have these guys watching virtual sports. Now, let me give you a feel for virtual sports. We'll go over to that. This is just amazing to me. This is an event from yesterday, okay?
4 5 lights are on. It's all to race for. Coming to turn 4. Oh, he's hit him. He's done it. Oh, he's taken 2.
Hello and welcome to the Gfinity Arena, the home of F1 Esports. It is that time again where we let the F1 stars do battle on the virtual circuit as they take on celebs and sports stars hoping to get a place on that podium. And I'm glad to say, joining me down on the desk at a very good distance, I hope you can hear me, is of course Sky F1 host Natalie Pinkman. We have got our social distance locked down.
Stay well away, Deacon, all right.
All right, fair enough. But looking into this race, it's great to have you back again. So much fun in the last one in the Shanghai circuit. Now we're heading, it should be the Zandvoort circuit, but it's not on the F1 2019 game, so instead we're going to Interlagos, but that's a brilliant track to get into.
Oh, I mean, it's an absolutely epic track. We're going to see so much drama. If it's anything like the real racing, this is one of my favourite places to go in Brazil. You've got hugely passionate fans. You've got a short circuit that lends itself to overtaking.
Say if it's anything like
a fantastic full throttle moment of at least 17 seconds where you will see great overtakes. You've got back markers that are always a bit of a problem.
Okay, so now let's watch the racing a little bit. This is what we're watching, or what you could be watching.
So you gain so much time with the DRS around here, as you can see with Alex Albon.
Here he comes again. Another change to the lead. Albon past Leclerc, and that is P1. once again for Alex Albon, even though I'm commentating that like it's a move for P9. They're overtaking each other so much. This is brilliant, brilliant stuff. And now we've got Esteban Gutierrez in very close proximity to the Alfa Romeo.
I mean,
who hasn't been able to stay with George Russell.
Virtually
hasn't
identical.
been able to do what Albon and Leclerc have been doing to each other. And so now Giovinazzi looking backwards at Esteban Gutierrez trying to improve. And a good move through the field for Stoffel Van Dorn, who has a great feel around this circuit, around the 4.3 kilometers of it.
It's just amazing. So anyway, people watch this. Millions of people. Only a few gamers. Now let's get into this article a little bit. Okay, so in-game ads. They're talking about in-game ads. So oops, got to get over here to the PDF. So, but if you looked at this, the in-game, there's an ad.
Steady progress through the field,
and there's ads along these four Rolex. See all the Rolex ads? Now that may have been put in by the game designer and not Rolex may not be paying.
Doesn't have the pace around here,
but now they're working it out so that it is connected up.
So Albon,
and there's P0, whatever that is, Penske probably tires. Okay, yeah, Penske. Or Pirelli, I'm sorry, Pirelli tires. Makes a lot of sense. Okay, so there's a lot of sense to this with the advertising. So that's one option. One of the problems with that is that if you don't want to put and see our Instagram page, right? But one of the things that they're working on is that each team can have its own sponsors. And if you like one of the drivers or one of the teams, then you'll see ads. And if you see a Nike ad, for example, on the car or on the jacket, later after the race or whatever, a pop-up will come up here, and you can actually go to the Nike site. So it's tightly integrated. They're talking about personalization at a high level, so that you basically log in as one fan of one of the racers or one of the teams. They're having individual in single shooter games. They are I get all this mixed up because I don't play these anymore. I did when I was a kid. No, I did when my kids were kids. But Matt is into this, and so he's going to have to educate me a little bit. But so the game designers may have spent millions of pounds building the game. They have hundreds of people designing little pieces, of here's a blimp probably, and communications towers, and they have to build all these things digitally to make it look real. All the tires, and they're not even. You can't have them exactly even. They're kind of mishmash, and so they don't want to wreck the game by putting in an incongruous ad. They want to have the kind of sponsors, and so some of the sponsors are stepping up and paying to be in the background. The other thing that I thought was interesting is they're using layer effects. So today it's a sunny day in Brazil, but if it were raining and it was a dirt track or something, a different kind of racing, you might have mud all over everything. And they have ability to make it look that real. But you don't want the billboard to be pristine and look out of place. So they'll splatter it with mud and make it fit into the scene and fit it into the weather climate that's going on. Fantastic, right? Okay, and so the layers and the mud. And what type of audiences? Well, as expected, you're getting mostly men. There's a first-person shooter game that has a high female usage called CS:GO. And there's also Rainbow Six Siege, another first-person shooter that has a high female secondary audience. But, it's okay to reach men because there aren't that many good ways to do it. Women are a lot more reachable for fashion and makeup and other products. So there's been a 260% increase in ad requests since the coronavirus. So it's going. People are spending more time playing too, but everybody's skill is going up, so it's hard to catch up, right? So you're not necessarily moving up because you have to play more than the rest of the field. But we're seeing cases where people want to get their sporting fix watching FIFA tournaments or virtual Formula One races, okay? But this shines a light on the production values, which honestly are pretty poor across the esports landscape. So as more money comes in, there's a more emphasis on getting the games to look more and more and more realistic, which you got to say, is pretty good. And now now some of these game platforms are being used to host concerts and other things, where there was a concert, I guess a couple of weeks ago, that had 12 million viewers. And once you get this kind of viewing, the author says YouTube and Stadia platforms, which is their cloud gaming platform, could come together and make streamers the richest entertainers on the planet. If you're one of the big streamers of the day with millions of people following you, you could charge 10 or 15 pounds for people to instantly jump into the game alongside you. You could have virtual meets, so you could, in a stock car, I mean, theoretically, it doesn't really have a passenger seat, but you could have a race where they did. You could ride along. When I was driving the Formula One car, there was a way to jump in, and so that's what Stadia's vision is to have meet and greets and events, all where millions of people across the world can watch. The world is going to change, folks, I have to tell you. Now, that said, we're going to just go over here for a second and talk about supply chain food. Okay? One man feeding a remote Alaska town with a Costco card and a ship. So here is the Alaskan coast, and I'll just go by the pictures, okay? Welcome to Gustavus. There's no roads into this area. There's more moose than there are people, okay? And here's the grocery store, right? Open. Toshko, not Costco. And they've got a wide variety of things, as they say. When I was a kid, we had a general store kind of thing next to us, and if they didn't have it, you didn't need it. And here's the guy who runs the grocery store. And they're running out of food. And so he took his boat, and 7 hours he took this barge and ran up the river to Juneau, where there's a Costco, the most remote Costco in the world, they say. And he bought $20,000 worth of stuff at this Costco, and and there's the barge. Okay, there's his barge, the little barge that he took and filled it up. I'm telling you, there are ways to get stuff, to get it where you need it. So if you're worried about not having enough Pringles or not having enough toilet paper, you are crazy. The world goes on. The world goes on. And one thing I know, I remember looking at Beirut, Lebanon videos back when there's been a civil war for 30 years. And you think, how does anybody live in a city like that? The city literally is divided down the middle by just knowing where not to go. And yet, I go to a church that's based in Syria, and yet people are still sipping their cappuccino in the outdoor cafes. Life goes on. They make do. We humans will make do. And they're doing it in Alaska. We may have to do it ourselves. But keep that in mind. Keep fighting. We're going to keep coming up with stuff. It's going to be interesting. It's going to be adventure. We did some great work this week, just yesterday, figuring out how different are the new buyers coming in to one of our customers, one of our clients who's hot. Hard to keep it on the shelves. Are those new people different than their base? Not going to tell you the answer, but I'm going to tell you that the analysis is really amazing. Have a great day. I'm John Miglosh. Like and share. Your friends will think you're smart. Bye-bye.